the client said they want it, and they may. Clients don't know what they want. Right. So if you go the whole Steve Jobs, Henry Ford route of they don't really know what they want, really good product people should be ahead of their customers, thinking about what the customer needs.
Yeah.
Right. Really good people.
It's a good point.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Account Management, a tactical guide to success. You have Fred Fuller here as your host, and my co-host, my homie, my Stromy, my main macaroni, the hooded falcon, ladies and gentlemen, John Brown. John, how are you?
I'm good. I can't recover from that intro, the hooded falcon.
No?
Yeah.
Well, you called it out last time.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like it. We're going to go with that. I'll come up with your nickname during the show. and then we'll, trust me, it'll come up later. I'm a little depressed, Fred, just to start the show. Do you want to?
We should definitely start with feelings.
I just got some feedback, which I normally appreciate feedback from our producer who's helping us here. And my level was a little low last time, so I'm going to really scream this one.
You're going to project.
Yeah, that's
you're going to bring it from the diaphragm.
Exactly.
Oh, I like. I've got some feedback for the studio people actually.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. So Podium Studios, outstanding,
fantastic,
outstanding outfit. Devin Smith, the proprietor, incredible guy.
Yeah.
Can we move this about 20 miles south?
Couldn't agree more.
We'll send an email.
It drains energy to be in Atlanta traffic.
I'm so spoiled. I don't have to fight Atlanta traffic ever. Like I never have to mess with traffic.
I never do either. Yeah. And so
I'm indignant.
Yeah. It's murder out there. It's really bad.
So, but we're here. We made it.
There's nothing we can do about it. Let's just try to recover and maybe move on.
Nothing we can do about it right now.
Right. Okay. Well, after the zombie apocalypse, then the traffic will be better,
yes,
I guess?
Yes, that's my point. That's my point. This is going to be a really long episode.
Okay. All right. We have a lot to talk about. Let's
should we get into the business?
Well, and we should renew our vow to our listeners. We've gotten many emails from everyone while we weren't podcasting, and we're going to reply to those emails. And actually, there were some really good suggestions in there about future podcasts we could do. And our next podcast after this one actually is from a suggestion. So we're gonna use that. So we are listening, and we're gonna reactivate here.
Yeah, I saw the emails, the replies. We have been I don't know, errant. Is that the right word? We have not been
deficient.
Deficient. We've been deficient in our responses or our response. Responsibility.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
We don't have a responsibility. No, we're not getting paid. So
we don't. We're not responsible at all.
Let's get to the topic.
Okay. So sorry, everybody. Welcome back. It's great to be back, John. It's great to see you. So today we're going to talk about, normally we're talking about account management, and that clearly has a very external impact. It's an externally facing function, but there is an internal component to this as well, correct?
Right, exactly. So this is going to be about how to work with internal teams. And where this really comes from is, and you'll forgive me for starting with this point of view. We're going to talk about it more generally, how to work with all of your internal teams. But where this comes from, for me at least, is you and I both been mostly in technology businesses throughout our career. Although I've been in a manufacturing business before. So when we wrote our book and as we create these podcasts, we try to be more generalist about business and kind of talk about account management in the context of any kind of business. However, having said that, I mean, mostly in technology businesses, what I see a lot of is account managers who rightly or wrongly, mostly wrongly, complain about their favorite function to complain about, which is product management. So for those of you who aren't in technology companies, product management is this function that basically, it does a few things, but it decides what things you're going to build from a technology standpoint, right? So you have only a certain number of engineers who can build things. You have to kind of pick and choose what you're going to build. You have to figure out how it's designed, what it looks like, right? All those kinds of things. That's what product management does if you're not familiar with it. But we're going to broaden it a little bit and try to talk about how you deal with your internal teams generally, but that's sort of the lead, if you will.
And I think this is interesting because as we talk about account management, this is important. But even beyond account management, we talked about this a little bit in the last episode. We talked about finance, talked about that I was in an FP&A role, and I saw my job as an FP&A person supporting the GMs like they were my clients, they were my customers, right?
Yep.
And so we need to think internally and externally about our clients and customers, right?
Right.
But if you think you should be a client internally, that doesn't give you the permission to behave as such. Is that?
Yeah. You know, sort of, your internal team as an account manager, they are not servicing the client directly. You are, right? But you may want to not treat them poorly. I'll tell you a little quick story. I had a long time ago when I was in sales. I used to sell to distributors of our product. This is when I was with the industrial company.
When you say a long time ago, like 40 years ago, 50 years ago?
Yeah, when it was 5.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right. This is when I was working at General Electric when I was 5 years old.
You were 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Started young.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jack Welch called me. We got to get the young ones in here.
Jack
anyway, can I tell my story?
I'm sorry.
Okay, so anyway, working with distributors of our product, and one of our distributors hired a sales rep that was apparently really, really great at sales and did a great job. What just was murder, completely mean to all of the people that worked in the office, would come back, scream at all the people who were in charge of like kind of customer service and delivering the products and making sure they got there on time, and just yelling and screaming. And I remember the owner of the business was telling me all this, and he's sort of like, I'm not sure what to do. And I was relatively young at that point, and my instinct was, I really don't think you can keep the person on the team if they're doing that, right? Because they're going to kind of destroy the team. And then, of course, after several months of putting up with this, eventually just to let the person go. Like the invective was just, off the charts. And so, like, anyway, I know nobody listening to this podcast is going to be like that, but it just goes to show, you can think that you are like a totally amazing account manager doing an amazing job, and that gives you license to be unpleasant to internal people, and it doesn't.
So this is how good we are.
Mm-hmm.
We create an outline for the show.
We do.
Right? And then we go through, and then we go with the moment, and we talk about the things as they come up. And so within the outline of this show, we didn't have it anywhere in there, but we talk consistently about this pump and filter sort of mechanism, right?
Yeah.
And this is a great application for that. You can be a pump or you can be a filter. John's beaming right now because this is actually one of his things that he shared with me, and he's like, "Oh man, he might actually have hope after all." Right?
I don't know. It's a good question. Actually, you know where that comes from?
Tell me.
The Navy. So, like, you'll appreciate this, right? People when I was in the Navy, they would say about officers, like if the commanding officer yells at a junior officer and says, get X, Y, and Z done. And if the junior officer amplifies that, right, which sometimes you need to, it's like a safety issue or something.
Yeah, sure.
Then they're a pump, right? But if they kind of calm it down a little bit, do a little bit of thinking, say, okay, here's how we're going to organize the effort. Let's talk about it and give orders that way. They're a filter.
And so when the client calls and they're on fire about something, we're talking about the delivery of a feature or functionality, which should have come from your product management team, right? And that didn't get delivered, or it got delivered and there was a bug in it or something. And the client calls you and they are not happy and they're sharing that with you in a very direct fashion. You then have a choice as the account manager that I can absorb this and I can turn around and I can drive this conversation internally, and I can be a filter and I can drive us all towards the solution, or I can be a pump. And I can turn around, I can yell at product management because they didn't get it right. And I've been telling them for weeks and yada, right? So this is, and so what is the path there, John?
Well, that's the whole podcast. We're going to go through and talk about all that, but it's generally leaning towards being a filter. Very occasionally you might have to be a pump, but that's actually a pretty good segue to, let's talk about the most common misconceptions when you're dealing with your internal team. I'll start with my first one.
Okay.
We can talk about. I'll start with kind of the product team. If you're in technology, the most common misconception I hear all the time is my internal team. I've asked them to the point you just made. I've asked them to develop this piece of software. They don't ever do it. They don't care about what I want, and they only work on what they want to work on. They don't care what I think. I hear that I get that quite a bit. By the way, I should mention, like, if you're even worse, if you're a leader of account managers, and we're actually going to do some podcasting later, we're going to talk about being an account management leader. Like, if you amplify that notion, you're 10,000 times worse off. But that is a very common kind of notion from the account management world.
So you mean to tell me that the product management team does care about me? They do care about account management? They do care about the customers?
Yeah. They do. But we're going to talk about, like, how to cure that, how to help cure that problem. They actually really do care what you think. And as a matter of fact, depending on your kind of relative level of seniority, and in particular, like if it's an engineer or somebody like that, as an account manager, they may look up to you.
Sure.
So conduct yourself kind of accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So that's misconception number one.
It's a responsibility. Right. You have a responsibility to set the tone.
That's right.
And how you do that dictates everything about really, and not to be too existential about it, but quality of life, right? Like it is your quality of life at work. And people don't realize how much influence they have over that. They feel like it gets set by everybody around them or the people above them. And the reality is you come in and you set the tone for the day, and that drives how you interact. And so marketing is one that kind of jumps off the page. Yeah.
So there's a misconception. What is it?
Well, what are they doing? Like, how hard is it to write the blog or get the white paper out? Like, there's a million ways to do this, and it's so easy. And what are they doing?
Right. So why can't they just create the content?
Just create the content. Just do what I'm asking you to do.
Right.
To the surprise of many, marketing, when done properly, is incredibly strategic. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of pieces that come into play in that, right? And one of the things that I see frequently is, and I'm a big fan of PR, public relations, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of, if you can get a joint piece of work out in the market that shows you're working with another big company and solving a big problem, like that's the use case. That's the best possible scenario, right?
Yeah.
No, because that will carry a lot more weight than your blog. The reality is, though, very few things carry that sort of newsworthy element to them to get you the coverage that you want, right? Like, I think it's cool. Well, yeah, that's because it's your job, and you're getting to get a commission check on it. Most of the world does not care about this, right? So it's your job to make marketing successful.
This is a very common misconception. Why can't you just create the content I want you to create? There's that, and then the other thing that you may not realize is the constraints that a team that produces something for you, like marketing, may have on them, right? And so, like, for those of you who appreciate operational things, there's this thing called theory of constraints, right? So if your marketing team has like 5 rules before they can go do a press release on something, or 5 rules before they can create a piece of marketing, it's not just as simple as saying, just write a blog post, right? Like, it's not, it's not quite that simple, right?
That's right.
So that's kind of misconception number 2.
Yeah. And those rules are critical to driving the greater good, right? Typically, that's why they're in place. What's another one for you?
Third misconception is, basically that we have a repeatable operational process. Why isn't it always perfect? Right. Right. So the example here is we invoice hundreds of millions of people monthly, and how come we have challenges getting the math right? Right. And so, that's another kind of just misconception. People don't realize that's really driven more by complexity itself. Right. So, like, if you have an ERP behind the scenes or something like that, that thing has tons of really complex interaction effects.
Yep.
And so this misconception that somebody is trying to mess you up, or like that they want this to happen, these kind of operational mistakes, like, no, it's just not true.
Well, here's the other thing about it is, it's really easy to say, well, if we stay with this example, invoicing went out and it was wrong. again, right? And so then it becomes those finance people, why can't they get it right? I guarantee you every system out there is dependent on human input, right? So that human input can come from your team, right? And if you're inputting the wrong stuff into the system, then finance is going to have bad output. Like that's the way that works. So make sure you're focused on what is the real problem and not just a label or, you know, it kind of fits in that area. So I'm going to be upset with those people about it, right? Like, or that group. Like, no, everybody's got a role in making things work and making things better. And to your point, like we have these standard operating procedures. We should be able to do this 1,000 times and get the same result. And you will if everybody involved does the exact same thing 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Right.
I tell you, even like high volume operational processes that I've been involved in, they eventually produce errors that are surprising in surprising ways, no matter what. Right. And so that's not driven by the humans necessarily, right? Like it's something that just was unexpected that happened in the system and you know, so just because something is done over and over doesn't mean that necessarily it's never going to result in an error. As a matter of fact, statistically, you have to account for some level of error.
You want to talk about statistics for a while?
I'm already bored just
I'm pretty good at it.
One sentence.
Pretty good at okay.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
we want to do statistics. Right. I got excited.
What's our final misconception, Fred?
The big one, and we hear
this is the big one.
This is the big one, which is the client asked for it, just do it.
Yeah. Why haven't you done it already? The client asked for it.
Right. Like, and on the surface, sure, that's a pretty solid argument,
I mean,
right?
You know, of all the arguments out there for doing a piece of work, you know, whether it's product or you have to ask finance to do it. I mean, that's a pretty solid argument.
It's high on the list.
Yeah.
It's really high on the list.
High.
Yeah. But why is that not always the answer, John?
Yeah, because the reality is you're, you know, whatever team you're asking to do this work, they have other priorities, right? And it's a question of how do you organize those priorities so that this one floats to the top. And I cannot tell you the hundreds of conversations I've had with people in a business, and I'll relate this to product management because it's kind of what we're leading with here a little bit is the hundreds of conversations I have. Well, this is obvious. We need to build this or do this. Why isn't that team doing it? But, you know, one thing you have to remember is like for any constrained team that has a limited amount of, I hate this word, but I'm going to use it anyway, bandwidth, right? Yeah. I hate that word because I think it's a technical term that implies a constraint on human beings that isn't rational. But nevertheless, they only have a certain amount of work that they can do. If you're talking about product management, technical development, like technical things, about a third of that team's capacity is just taken up with things that are like fixing the current platform and like compliance stuff, right? So right away, a third to a half of the amount of kind of available work to do is already out the window, right? Yeah. So think about that for a second, and then on top of it, you know, they have other priorities. They're working on the last thing that that you ask them to do. And the real challenge for them is what's known as opportunity cost, right? So they could build and this is the real challenge. I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with a sales leader where they're like, I was at the client today. They told me we need to build this, you know, dang it. Hey, Mr. Product Manager, Mr. and Mrs. Product Manager, we need to go build it. And what the person I'm talking to has trouble articulating is, okay, well, that's great. We could build that. But like, then if we build that, what are we not building that could have been worth so much more, right? That's actually what a product manager's job is to figure that out. Or like, what is the most high value thing I could be building? And that's a really, really tough thing to figure out. So if you just go with what client is the noisiest, it's not always a good result. And I can't tell you the number of times I've seen a company build something where the sales team will bring it back and say, this is going to be huge. Every client is going to want this. That's always the classic thing. Every client is going to want this. And so we need to build this. You build it, and the only client that winds up using it is that one client. I've seen that over and over and over dozens of times.
This is going to be the game changer.
Yeah, this is the game changer.
This is it. We got to do it.
Yeah.
We got to do it. You know, there's also a component here of the client said they want it, and they may. That could also like be a moment, right? Of like, hey, what if we had this? Oh, great, right? But let's marinate on that and work that through a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's it's interesting to think about then also a component of clients don't know what they want. Right. So if you go the whole Steve Jobs, Henry Ford route of they don't really know what they want, really good product people should be ahead of their customers thinking about what the customer needs, right? Really good people.
It's a good point to put in the Henry Ford quote. What did Henry Ford say?
If I asked people what they wanted, we'd all be riding faster horses. Right?
Right.
So, and I think it's really, really true.
Yeah.
This is a really good example of such where you need to understand internally what are the objectives, because the client sometimes doesn't understand what's best for them.
Yeah, well, or the subcategory of that is, I've seen this happen. Client is insistent you must build X, Y, and Z. And so you're running around trying to figure out, can you convince your internal team to build X, Y, and Z? Client has a regime change. The new people come in and they don't care at all about X, Y, and Z. Have you seen that? I've seen that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Not only do they not care about X, Y, and Z, they're not sure your platform is for the future. Like what just happened, man? We were
we were
saving
tight.
the world together.
You were asking me for X, Y, and Z, right?
That's right.
Yeah. No, so really common problem. And so, anyway,
so let's stay.
We've said what all the problems are.
So So let's stay with this, right? So product management's a really good example, and you can apply so many of these things, right? Whether we're talking about finance,
marketing, whatever.
But when this comes to you and they say the client wants it, and we need to do it or else, like what's your response? How do you manage through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there's kind of 6 things that I would suggest doing instead of what often happens in account management and sales, where you roll in from the meeting and in a data-free way say, you guys need to build this, and then you kind of drop it off in their desk, and you're hoping you'll come back in 3 months and it'll be done. So here's the sort of 6 things to do instead. We're going to talk about each of these 6. So first is provide a business justification for your request, which is sort of obvious, but what we're really saying is build a business case. Second, write clear requirements, objectives, and expected outcomes. That's the second thing. So we're actually telling you to do some work.
I was just about to say, hold on, man.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work.
It's a lot easier if they just do it.
Right? I know. Yeah. The next one is when the thing is. Third one is we're going to go through just some refinement points about how to go about doing this. The fourth is when the thing you want done gets done and it gets delivered, recognize the team or to be really specific about how to do that. There's a wrong way to do it. And then number 5 is what have you told not right now, which is actually the answer you will get the most often. What do you do about that? And as a matter of fact, that's the answer you should expect.
Yeah.
Right. That's the real thing. And then the 6th thing we're going to talk about is so you guys can tell where we're headed with all this is like you should treat an internal and operational and support team just like you would a client, which is build a relationship first before you do all this stuff.
And I tell you what's funny about that one is I've seen and if I'm being honest, I've actually felt this way a time or two where you're like, man, I spend so much energy with that external communication that when I turn around internally, I just I need to be able to drop it, right? I need to be able to, but
take off your game face and just like relax, say, hey, y'all go do this. And then they go get it done. That's what you want.
Y'all, which goes really well in the boardroom, right?
Hey, y'all
in the boardroom, fix this. So yeah, I think that's all quite interesting. Well, let's jump into these things real quick then. Yeah. Okay. So provide business justification.
So this is a tough one. Like if not everybody's like a amazing business case writer, and I'm not asking you to always do like a full-on Harvard MBA, business case. But what I would say, and this kind of speaks to number 2 a little bit as well, if you're an account manager and you're not willing to at least create a slide or, a Word document, a Google document about writing down here's what is needed and why, and what some of the rationalizations might be, rationalizations like we're going to go grow revenue by 10% with this client and it's worth this, right? Or, it will reduce operational expense by this. If you're not willing to at least do that level of work, then it's really hard to convince, you show the seriousness of your own intent by actually doing a little bit of work. right? So that's what we're saying. Figure out, and if you're not great at writing a business case, if that's not your thing, I guarantee you there's somebody in your company who probably is. Go to them and say, hey, what would you want to see if I were to tell you we need X, Y, and Z? Or go to an executive and say, hey, I want to write a business case. Can you help me? They'll love you for that.
Enjoying the podcast but want to learn more best practices for account management? Pick up a copy of A Dragon Walks Into a Meeting, a tactical guide to client management. Available at Amazon or wherever books are sold.
And you know what I think is important, and what we probably don't talk about enough is, what's the point of it, right? The point of creating a business case is applying more thought to it. It is thinking through it more thoroughly. It's understanding that nothing happens in a vacuum. So if you go change that widget, there's a domino effect to everything else, right?
Yeah.
There are people within large financial institutions, there are teams, swaths of people, and their job is to understand, when you make one change anywhere in the bank, what are all the groups and teams impacted, right? Like, and when you think about that, you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. But if you really sit down and go through it for an organization the size of, say, a top 10 bank in the U.S., it's massive. It touches everything.
Yeah. The other thing that you'll do if you start kind of a business case around something, as you go talk to people, you may uncover somebody else in the organization who's like, oh, I want that too, and they may start helping you.
Better yet, it's already being worked on.
Yeah, that'd be
that happened. You'd be shocked at how often that happened. Do we have anything? Yeah, we created this last week. What?
Yeah,
I asked 10 people before I got to you. So, figure out what's really going on in the organization, because that'll have a big impact.
There's one other piece of this one that's important: creating a business case. I'm going to relate it back to product management, but it's actually really true of marketing as well. If you create a business case that actually has some level of data and customer insight, even if it's just quotes, even if it's just like a recording of something a client said in a meeting, like, they're going to really appreciate that and like it. And it's going to make them a little bit more likely that they'll do your thing because you invested a little bit of kind of research time in it, right? Like, so one kind of small suggestion on this one is a really great technique if you're trying to build a business case is what's called the 5 whys.
Yes.
You've heard of that, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And I raised 3 boys, so why? Yeah.
I got to tell you, a lot of times when I talk to you, I think I have 5 whys after that conversation. I'm like, why?
You've been waiting.
But the why sounds like this. It's like, why?
Oh, you've been waiting the whole podcast for this moment.
I just came up with that. No, I just came up with that. No. I just came up with that. It was solid.
It was clever.
Well, I
don't like saying that. It pains me to say he's clever. It's really, really painful.
Now, the 5 whys is, it's a root cause analysis technique. So we have this problem. Why do we have that problem? You go one step back and you keep asking that until, the sort of classic example is I'm dropping my kids off late at school. You ask 5 whys and you finally get back to, I should lay their clothes out on the bed the night before. Right. Like that kind of, you keep going backwards in the root cause.
The root cause. That's what it's all about, right? That is Six Sigma. We joked.
That's Six Sigma.
But that's 100%. Like, find the real problem before you start fixing stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so with that, we write clear requirements, objectives, expected outcomes.
Yeah.
I
think this is one where I'll talk about product management to begin with. Product management will appreciate if you write requirements. And so when I say the word requirements, I'm really, really clear about typically what that means is somebody writes down what they want in terms of feature functionality.
Yep.
So when I press this button, I want this to happen and this information will move to here and that kind of thing. So yes, that is important. And you should, if you can do that, if you can articulate it at that level, you should do that. Now, it does sound a little bit like I'm doing the product manager's job for them. Or if there's some other operational function, I'm kind of telling them exactly what to do. If you can do it, that's great. What would be better to do, though, is actually write down the outcomes that you need to have happen. And there's a whole, we could get into all kinds of theory about how to sort of manage changing your product for the future. But in general, with operational people and product management people, You're actually a lot better off saying, well, what I need to have the outcome I need to have to happen at the client is this. So therefore, I need this number to go from here to here. I need, you see what I'm saying? Like, actually write out the requirements for what the outcome is. And there's a very specific reason I'm saying this is that what I have found, particularly with engineers, is a lot of times they will come up with something way more clever than you would have thought of in terms of a way to actually execute what you're trying to do than you would have thought of yourself. So my point with all that is, the B plus answer is just write requirements of exactly what you want the thing to do. The A plus answer is just to write down outcomes and see if you can engage their brains to get them to come up with ideas, because they will come up with stuff that's a lot more clever than what you could do. So sometimes as business owners, we can be just almost a little too prescriptive here, if that makes sense.
It's accomplishing so many things, actually, because I think once you go down the road with somebody into their world and say, yeah, I want to help you with this, I want to be a part of this, people can say, well, what are you doing in my kitchen, right? And it can get weird. But to me, it should be, this is awesome. You're expressing interest in trying to understand my world and how it works and what the impact is. And when you do that, that's really helpful, right?
Yeah. Start with the outcomes. And if you have the right people you're working with, in engineering or product or marketing or finance or whatever, and you start talking about outcomes and you get them to engage. Like I've had instances before where developers have said, like actual technical developers have said to me, yeah, we could do that, but like, wouldn't it be better if it did this? And it was something I hadn't even thought of. And I was like, oh, yeah, that actually would be better than with the thing I'm actually asking for, right? So that's what you got to be a little careful of.
We both worked with a CIO that said that he consistently does everything that he can to hire the laziest developers he can find because they will write the most efficient code.
Yeah.
He's like, they will be the most efficient people in the building because they're lazy. And so they will find the quickest way to do it. And he's like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's interesting, right?
Yeah. No, it's a management philosophy. I might take a different strain on that, but I appreciate the point, which is like, come up with something a little more. Can I tell you my story about writing code? I'm still burnt about this. No kidding. 30 years later. Yeah. So I had a project in college where I had to write a piece of code.
Hold on. This is a real story.
Yeah, it's a real story.
I didn't know where we were going with it.
No, it's a true story.
Because we started with feelings because you were hurt earlier.
So we got this assignment, and I was writing Fortran. This, like, if anybody here is in technology, like, this is an ancient programming language. So I write. They come up. Basically the assignment is transform, I don't know, letters into numbers or some sort of thing like that. I came up with a super elegant way to do. I read like the appendix of the book, and it gave like a data transform that like we hadn't gotten to yet in the class. And so I came up with a very, very short piece of code that did this exactly what they said to do elegantly, much more elegantly. It was way shorter than everybody else's answer. It's exactly what you just said. I wanted to be lazy and not write like a bunch of code. So I made it like a super short thing. Did exactly what they said to do. I got a B+. Still, I'm
oh my gosh, the outrage. Oh, if I had a B+, my family would celebrate. Are you kidding me right now, man? Yeah, well,
as you can tell, I'm still pretty.
You're
pretty upset about it.
I'm trying to think of a good British term for it, but knackered,
peeved,
yeah,
cross. That's British.
Cross is very cross about it. Yeah. Why are we doing this? I have no idea.
Can we keep going?
Yes, for heaven's sakes. All right, we're on to number 3, refinement points. Boom, hit me with them.
All right. Number 1 is communicate like crazy. We've talked about that a little bit already, but it's sort of obvious, right? So like, I think my sub point in this one is, be willing to have the conversation more than once, right? Like if you think you're going to come in, again, I'm thinking of certain people. They come back from the client, they're all mad. They want to have one meeting, drop it off on your desk, and you go get it done. That's not how it works, right? If you're passionate about it, if the client was yelling at you, you got to be willing to have more than one meeting about it. As a matter of fact, we talked about this before, be willing to have one more meeting than they're willing to have, right?
it's account management 101. What's funny is it's just internally versus externally.
Yeah.
Like externally, I think people, if you've listened to the podcast, you've been doing this, you understand what that looks like and how it feels. Internally, it's just, again, you want to drop the mask and do the thing and da-da-da. It doesn't work that way. You got to come back. You got to have the conversation. Yeah. No will be the answer. No is the beginning of the conversation.
And no is always the
negotiation, all that stuff, right? But so it's like any other conversation. You just don't get to blow into a room and say, we got to go do this. You got it. And blow it. And just
then you jet.
That world doesn't exist, does it?
Doesn't exist.
But if you find that world,
if you find that company, please
let me know.
Please hire me.
Yeah, I will send you my resume. You can go to our website, Fuller-Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's keep going. Be willing to negotiate scope. So be willing to have your ideas challenged. Like a lot of people, they get their first challenge, and the product manager or the marketing person or operations person says, "I don't think so. That doesn't make any sense." And here's why. Like you got to be willing to work through that, right? Don't just quit because of that. Again, touch on the product management theme. If you are, don't just go straight to development, work through the product management team, right? Like that's a common mistake. It can kind of feel good to go right to development and they kind of jump right on your thing, but that can actually have a lot of unintended consequences for your organization.
It can
come back to haunt you. We won't get into all of them, but a few of the big ones are they're working on something they're not authorized to work on. Now they're in trouble. You're in trouble. Like it just
stuff.
There's a reason there's a product management team there. So don't skip steps, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Carpenter's Credo is the other one. Measure twice and cut once. So you said this a minute ago. You were talking about like really all this kind of prep work to get somebody to do work. It feels like wasted time. You really want to dive in and get it done. And that actually is a bad idea. So I'll tell you about an interesting book I just read recently.
Let me hear.
It's called Getting Big Things Done. And I'm actually being dead serious now. I'm not going to tell a funny story.
Okay.
You're looking at me like you want to.
No, you have my attention.
Okay.
For a serious story.
It's called Getting Big Things Done. And anyway, it's this analysis of all of the kind of big, major, high expense projects that go wrong in the world. So like building that massive subway tunnel in New York and, kind of big giant infrastructure projects like that. And they did this like really detailed analysis of like what makes all the difference in whether or not a project is successful, on time, on budget or not. And guess what the difference is?
Tell me.
It's just the amount of time you spend preparing. The more time you spend preparing, the less likely, the more, measure twice, cut once. The Toyota, the famous sort of Toyota way, Six Sigma lean and all that, they actually will study a problem for a year before they commit any resources to it. And that's their way of doing that. Like you have to study, which seems like in business it's the opposite of the American way of doing things. The American way is
move fast, get it done, move on, cheap. Right,
cheap
like
now.
Fix problems cheap, don't impact the margin, all that, right?
So what we're suggesting is be a little more zen, a little more Japanese,
thoughtful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you get through all of this good stuff and you deliver.
Yes.
Right. You deliver. Then what?
Now what? Well, so recognize the team, and very specific point on this: the email that says "Thanks, everyone." That ain't cutting it.
Thanks, y'all. Is that better? We're going back to y'all now?
What is that called in comedy when you
call back or something?
Is it a callback? So, yeah. What is that when you bring it back? So you just did that.
It's called brilliant. That's what it's called.
I don't think so.
It's not. No. You're not going with that way. He just threw up in his mouth a little bit. I actually really like this one. Yes, everybody's going to send the great job team, that kind of. But what do you do? What do you do different? Mid-swig.
Make it about individuals.
Yeah.
Right. So like I had actually managed a large team a while back, and whenever it was true in a bunch of places, like whenever development would the engineers or really anybody for that matter, like would would do something well, and I didn't quite know all of the people involved who contributed to the effort, I would go ask their boss, hey, who all helped with this? I'll get the list of 5 to 10 names, whoever that is, and I'll write each of them a handwritten note and say thank you. Right, like that is 1,000 times more impactful than the email to reply all to say hey thanks, like that. You've just wasted your time, right? Because you had no impact on an individual, right? So you just I bought a bottle of bourbon for team members before to say thank you, right? Like I know you've done a bunch of similar things,
a whole bunch of that. I think there's the other side of this too, which is just as you give credit to everybody for doing the work, you also absorb it when it doesn't go well. So when it gets delivered and it's all accolades, don't take any of it. Like you make sure the people that did it get the credit. When it goes south and they need a pincushion, that's your job.
Right. Your
job as the account manager is you step up and say, should have done better. I own this. Beat me up. Protect the team behind you.
We talked about this in a bunch of other podcasts.
Right, we did.
Yeah. When it gets delivered wrong and there was a big bug, that's... I'm accepting responsibility on behalf of Acme Corporation for accidentally lighting the box of dynamite.
But Wile E. Coyote was on his way.
See, that was set up for you.
Yeah. Well, come on, man. I got to do something with that. Elmer Fudd and all that good stuff. So that I think that's good. And to go beyond the point here is go beyond the note, go beyond the email. Great job, team. Make sure that you take a moment to call people out. Call them out directly to their bosses. Right?
Yes.
Like go to their boss and say, hey, I need you to know that Stephanie did a phenomenal job on this project. Money in the bank. Love her.
And here's the thing. Stephanie is going to remember that. And the next time you have a project come up that the organization starts to hear about that you're sponsoring, where you're the account manager and you're trying to drive it into the organization, guess which way they're going to want to lean? Like there's going to be a subtle pressure to do the project for the person who actually said thanks.
And made sure my boss knew about it. That's trying to impact my career, right? Like,
yeah. You'd be surprised how, internal operational people and people like engineers and developers, they're all like Cadbury eggs, right? So
Fabergé.
They're like Cadbury eggs. They're hard and crunchy on the outside, and inside is a soft, warm, gooey center. I'm apologizing to all the friends of mine who are engineers right now. They're going to be like, there's a warm, soft, gooey center, and they are real people. And on the outside, they may act like they don't care about what you think, but like you said thank you, and you sent a handwritten note. You're getting at that warm, gooey center.
This moment was brought to you by Forrest Gump. Can we also?
That's gonna be Cadbury. Would that make more Nestle? Who
I don't look, man. It's just a box of chocolates. You know what I'm saying? Right. You don't know what the middle and all that stuff at the bus stop with Jenny. You know what I mean?
I think you actually have your brands wrong, but whatever. I think you're thinking Whitman's Sampler.
But it was Jenny, right?
Oh, we're going to have another podcast about candy.
About Forrest Gump.
And Forrest Gump.
The entire later. Bubba Shrimp. Let's keep Bubba Gump Shrimp. Okay, now what if the answer is not right now? Not right now, John. Not right now,
Do not act, so don't act all disappointed, right? Like that is actually going to be the most common answer. The strategy here is be pleasant but persistent, right? So I understand. Don't give up. You get no on the first go round. That doesn't mean it's no forever, right? Come back to the idea after a certain appropriate amount of time. And if the argument was based on, the merit of your idea, work on your business case.
Yep.
Right. But sometimes the business case is super obvious and everybody agrees we should do it. The client wants it, all that stuff. So it's all yes, but the team's just busy with other things, right? So you're just going to have to be persistent, keep it on the list, come back to the list, don't forget about it. Persistence is the key to getting what you want out of life.
Yeah, and if the client wants it, they're probably not going to let you forget. They're not going to let you forget, right? Yeah. They're going to stay on it, and the noisier they get, and there's ways to go around it. Like be very, very intelligent. If you have a client that wants this, and it doesn't feel like the organization is motivated towards what it is that your client wants, then go see if other clients want it.
Yeah.
Right?
Great advice.
Don't
Right.
reach out to other people's clients. Go to your counterparts.
Yeah, right.
Find out if they want it, right? Build a consensus around it. Be
Yes.
intelligent. It is your responsibility to run that part, that micro business, which are those accounts.
Yeah.
But it's also your responsibility to do that in concert with the greater good.
Yeah, go
right?
talk to the
So
rest of the account
talk to your-
managers and all the salespeople.
That's right.
And if you put together that case, like I went and talked to all these people, and I looked in our CRM, and I changed our CRM to mark whether or not the client wants this, and then I over 6 months collected all this data, and I know which clients want this, and you put that all together, and you put that in front of your boss as an account manager, you're going to look like a rock star.
Yeah, and who doesn't want that? I often dream of being a rock star, but
Well, as you know, I am one with my band, Spam Risk.
oh my gosh, we're gonna go. The Hooded Falcon is the front man. We are gonna get images of you wearing a falcon hood. Like this is gonna be so stellar.
All right.
We're changing our logo. So there's one last thing here, though, right? What really is the ultimate goal or objective with all this?
All these things, actually, the number one you should start with, we put it last just to emphasize, but it doesn't make sense. It should be the first thing is, all of those internal teams, the key to their heart is build a relationship first.
Build a relationship.
Don't just talk to them when you want something, right? And that's a mistake a lot of people make, right? Like, I'm only talking to you when I want something, and people sense that, right? They're not, if you actually kind of care about them, I don't know, maybe go find out something about them or take them to lunch or, there's a million different ways to build a relationship, but you won't build a relationship by just only talking to XYZ team when you need something from XYZ team.
Well, I think as a general rule, people love to talk about themselves. And so ask them about themselves. Right?
Not
they want to talk about
said
their
it a dozen times.
partners, kids, family members. They've all got an ailing elderly. Like we all have these things, and people need people to talk to about them.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
like heaven forbid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, look, good episode here. I mean, I think that we should redefine this episode as account management, the job that never ends. Because whether you're doing it internally or externally, you're always managing relationships with people, right? So I'll leave you with this, and this is something that I'll share probably multiple times. My oldest came home from school. He was about 12 years old. He's in middle school. And he got in the car. And when he got in the car, I could tell he was a little bit like, and I'm like, oh, how was school today, buddy? And he was like, so, well, tell me about it. And he's like, well, Stephen did this and Shelly did that. And I just feel like people were picking on me, and it just wasn't a good day, just people. And I said, son, you're a little bit young for this feedback, but working with people is the single hardest thing that you do in the course of your life. In the course of your career,
no question.
we can all learn the math and the science and those things, right? And we can have our creative genius moments where we think of things, and we just, all those things are out there. The consistent thing that you will do through the course of your life, professionally, personally, right, family, socially, it's people.
It's people. 100%.
And that's what this job is.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't stop externally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I often use the analogy account management. It's a little bit like being a mail person. The mail doesn't stop. Just keeps coming. Of course, it's job security. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And if you're good at it, it's pretty good living.
In a future episode, we're going to talk about AI and the account manager. And preview of that episode is the AI is actually going to make account management more in demand. I've talked about this with a bunch of business people already, and so we have that to look forward to, and it's because of what you just said. It's about people.
Yeah. Well, look forward to that. Look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
John, great to see you, man.
Pleasure as always.
All righty. Well, thanks for tuning in. That wraps it up for another episode of Account Management, a tactical guide to success. For John Brown, I'm Fred Fuller, and we'll see you next time.
Learn more about the art and science of account management. Pick up A Dragon Walks Into a Meeting, a tactical guide to client management. Digital and print editions available at Amazon or your favorite bookseller. Fred and John would like to hear from you. Leave a comment for us on YouTube and head over to fuller-brown.com for more great content.